What's going on, everybody? Welcome into this post-game therapy edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast. I am your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. These do not get any easier, even when you go into it with house money. Like I said last game before the Cowboys game, and like I said before this game, it's all house money until that game kicks off. And then the nerves and the anxiousness and the pressure and everything begins. And even when you think you don't have anything to lose going in and it's a victory and it's a win no matter what, man, these games can still rip your heart out in an instant. That's a tough one. That sucks. It absolutely sucks. This was the ultimate classic Packers playoff meltdown when you had everything in hand. You had every opportunity to win. And like I said, these don't get any easier no matter what. We should be fairly calloused and like have the scars and like, oh, these can't hurt us. No, they still hurt every single time. Obviously, I think the big moment in the game, you get the huge Aaron Jones run towards the end. You're up by 4. You have the ability to salt away the game and, hopefully go in and score a touchdown after that. And then, you can't get any yards after. You actually get I think you get a false start by the 49ers after. I think you pick up an immediate first down, and then immediately the drive stalls. You kick an extremely makeable field goal. And as I tweeted out, it would be unbelievable if it weren't so effing predictable. Brian had one of the ultimate draft classes of all time, but unfortunately, within said draft class was a kicker that has not panned out in any way, should not have been in that position. And one of the faults of Green Bay at times has been staying loyal to a fault and giving guys too many chances. And there have been plenty of occasions where that has paid off in a major way. Rasheed Walker is a pretty great example of that this season, where I think if everyone had their choice, I don't know that Rasheed Walker would have made it through the first handful of games this season. It helps sometimes, but in other times it kicks you in the dick right when you least need it. And that's exactly what Anders Carlson did in this one. And like I said, it would be so unbelievable if it wasn't so predictable, because we talked about it on the pregame show. Like, you can't feel confident if you've got a 40-some yard field goal game on the line. And I know technically the game wasn't on the line at the time. You had a 4-point lead. The defense still could have picked them up afterwards. The offense could have picked the defense up. But that's when it felt like everything flipped, and San Francisco knew it too. And they just went right down and they went for the kill. A minute left. Green Bay gets a really quick first down. And that's usually the important thing. Like, you got to get going. You got to get some momentum. Not Jordan's best game. So he had a play on the first interception where it should have just been an easy check down, and instead it's an interception. Now, they would have punted away, but clearly you pin San Francisco deep on that drive instead. You have the throw to Aaron Jones on a third down. That would have been an easy check down. I think he's expecting Aaron Jones to sit on that rather than keep going, and there's just a disconnect there, but there's a miss there. And then, of course, you have the play at the end of the game where you just have to live to see another down there. It's okay to throw the ball away in that situation and see another play. And instead, he throws completely across his body. And in fact, Dre Greenlaw intercepted it from another 49er. If Dre Greenlaw doesn't catch it, there's another 49er there. I thought for the most part through the course of the game, the defense did their job. I mean, we went into this game thinking that if the defense could hold San Francisco in the low to mid 20s, they would have a legitimate chance to win this game. And that's exactly what they did in this game. They held them to the low to mid 20s. Now, I know that last drive is awful. I get it that they had the opportunity to get off the field. There's a 4-point lead, and all you have to do is allow them not to score a touchdown. You can allow, obviously they're not going to take a field goal. They're going to go on 4 downs every time, but you have the ability to get off the field. And when your defense most needed it, when your team most needed it, the defense couldn't get off the field. And again, if it would be unbelievable if it wasn't so predictable. And then again, at the end on that final drive, some of Jordan's flaws popped up, and just kind of throwing late over the middle. This is going to be one of those learning experiences for this team. And I know nobody wants to hear that. I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to necessarily hear it, because these opportunities aren't guaranteed to come along in any season. They might not be in a position to go to an NFC championship game. Well, we think they will. They have all the tools at their disposal. I think they're going to get better after this, but nothing's guaranteed in this league. And, teams get better and worse very, very fast in this league. But there is an opportunity to learn from this. Yes, it is an extremely successful season, no matter which way you cut it, which way you slice it. This is a team that played one of its worst games in a while in this game. They played a C- game. If you would have told me that the Packers played a C- game, I would have said they probably lost. The Vegas got it right. They probably lost by like 10, 14 points. They played a C- game and they should have won. That should give you hope, because if they play anywhere near a better brand of football, they not only win this game, they win it easily. It was a bizarre game. It's going to be tough to evaluate everything. The offense had its moments, but the offense had its really crappy moments as well. The defense had its moments, but they had some really crappy moments as well. The dropped Darnell Savage pick 6 is another one that we're going to be lamenting forever. And it's just like the exact opposite of last week, where you get points, but instead of a touchdown, it's a field goal. And then you have the opportunity to get the pick 6, but instead this time it's a drop. And it's just like everything that went right last week, you almost had the exact formula to replicate everything, but just couldn't do it. And that's what makes it so heartbreaking. It would be, I don't know if it'd be better, but if San Francisco just was leading by 14 the entire game and Green Bay had to fight their way back into it, it still stings, but it's less of a sting. But I think we all saw and we all knew. And we saw the stat. Shanahan's been 0-30, went down at 5+ going into the fourth quarter, and Green Bay had it. They had it, and they had multiple outs too, because they have the opportunity after the Aaron Jones run to go down and just seal it away. They've got the Anders Carlson field goal to make it a 7-point game. The defense has the opportunity to hold them without a score at the end. And then the offense has the opportunity to go and get another field goal opportunity to maybe tie the game. Now, if Anders would have made that, who the hell knows? But just that's what's so heartbreaking about it and so disappointing about it. This is the first thing I see in the chat. Tyree, man, I don't know what to tell you. If you feel like Matt LaFleur is the problem after this season, I just don't know what to tell you. Yeah, guys, these games are extremely tough. I mean, people would have been saying if Green Bay won this game, well, Kyle Shanahan's the problem and Brock Purdy's the problem. These are extremely tough games to win. And the fact that Matt LaFleur had this team in this situation in this season, no, F that. He's the solution far more than he's the problem. Not his greatest game play calling wise. I think we can agree to that to some extent. But if you think Matt LaFleur is the problem, man, you are barking up the extremely wrong tree in this specific chat. Shane, we'll get through some super chats here. Shane, we were in it till the end. Couple of things go the other way in this one, and we win by 2 scores. The team is so fun, so explosive. Go Pack, go. Shane, I love your positivity, buddy. I'm with you. If they get a couple things that just bounce their way a little bit, heck, if Jordan's throw up and behind Kraft just falls to the ground, it's a different story. If Darnell gets the pick 6, if Anders makes the field goal, there's a million. And this is like the classic Seahawks NFC Championship game, not quite to that level of pain and extent, but we're going to be able to go through this game, and there's going to be 14, 15 plays again where you go, if this goes a hair the other way, Green Bay wins this easy. Now, you could look at it both ways, of course, always. If Eric Wilson isn't there to, recover Keyshawn Nixon's fumble, maybe San Francisco wins this going away. Who knows? But Green Bay was in it. They had every single chance to win. Disappointing to say the least. They'll be back, and you hope they're better than ever. I do think some of the injuries played a part in this one. Zach Tom going out, the offense in the second half didn't look quite right. I think Zach Tom had a piece to do with that. It felt like Musgrave. I know he came in a little bit, but they definitely pared down his plays. I don't know if he was going through something. And I know Quay Walker went out for a little bit, but I think he was mostly back. Guys were in and out, but you're certainly not going to look at this game and think back of that's the thing that turned it. They still had everything in front of them and they could have won this game, but I think that definitely played a little bit of part too. But yeah, disappointing, but I love the positivity, Shane. Is competition for Anders this offseason enough? Do you have to find somebody new after that? Yeah, I mean, knowing the Packers, I don't think they're just going to outright release Anders, but you have to bring competition at bare minimum. It's hard to imagine that he just all of a sudden puts everything together. And I know young kickers go through these moments, and sometimes you can release a kick. I don't know. It's going to be tough for him. That's his lasting like image of his season in Green Bay is him missing the kick that would have put them up 7. And then you kick off, you pin them deeper. Like it's an entirely different game if you just make a very makeable kick. If he misses from like 50, it's like, all right, that's in wet weather at 50 yards. Like that's a tough ask. But competition needs to be the bare minimum. But if I had to guess based on how the Packers operate, I would be pretty surprised if they just cut Anders Carlson outright and went in an entirely different direction. But no question about it, there needs to be another kicker or two in rookie minicamp, OTAs, training camps, and you better be looking for somebody that you think is a legitimate upgrade. And again, the thing that's so frustrating, we talked about it on numerous occasions. Like you knew when you're going with a kicker like this, you know that you're giving up points. And in a game like this, it's the sliver of a difference. It is the margin of error in these games is nothing. It is nothing. There's nothing there. It is razor thin. And you know that if he misses an extra point, a field goal, anything, turns field position over, it's going to change the outcome of the game in all likelihood. And it did. Now, maybe he makes the field goal, San Francisco goes down, ties the game up, game goes to overtime, and we get a classic Packers overtime loss in the playoffs. Could that have been the case too? Sure. But it does, like, you have to at least play the game out and give it every opportunity to win the game. And it's unacceptable that you put that kicker in that situation with an opportunity to go to the NFC Championship on the line. And by the way, go to an NFC Championship game that you would have had every right to win and had an opportunity to go to a Super Bowl. Instead, that blind faith, even though the results were there. And I said it last week of like, hey, maybe you bring in, maybe if I get, if you like, at this point, you still have faith in Anders, but like, you don't, maybe you're just like a little apprehensive. Like Matt LaFleur said, he's like basically praying before every kick. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. So I said like, hey, do you bring in a veteran kicker? Maybe it's Mason Crosby. Maybe it's somebody entirely different. There's plenty of veteran kickers out there. You just need somebody that's automatic from 45 in, like 44, 43 in the short ones. Like they take 45 and in, and you give Anders the longer ones. And you could find that, and you could have deactivated. Like, I don't think Keyshawn Banks played in this game. You deactivate Keyshawn Banks instead. You've got the open 53-man roster spot. You bring in a kicker that just does the extra points and the short field goals, the ones that need just accuracy, and you keep Anders to kick the long ones and do the kickoffs. Like they could have done that in this game, and they might go to the NFC Championship game. And instead, they decide to kick with the same kicker that's been having the same issues and has missed the most field goals and most kicks of any kicker this season. He's just bad. It's not good enough, and it altogether sucks. So, Jonathan, yes, competition should be the bare minimum. Alexander, unmitigated pain, hates San Francisco. Go Pack, go. Green Bay owns Chicago. Green Bay owns Dallas. San Francisco owns Green Bay. And as much as we get to talk smack against those two teams, Dallas and Chicago, San Francisco has endless amounts of smack that they can talk to Green Bay and the fans at this point. That is a team that Green Bay has not been able to get over. And again, they had every opportunity to do it in this game and win the game, and they just didn't. And again, that's what makes these so painful and so hard to go through. Jay Western, the impulse to dream has slowly been beaten out of me through the experience of life. Jay Western, hang in there, my friend. What I also said, when I said going into this game, as soon as the game starts, the house money thing is over, and it's great that you think that this is a winning season no matter what, and yada, yada, yada. But as soon as the game starts, you're just going to want to win. What I also said was, as soon as the dust settles, and if you lose this game and the smoke clears, we will all have extremely fond memories of this season. The end is not what you wanted. To me, it's very akin to the Corey Webster NFC Championship game interception against Brett Favre in overtime. That's still one of my favorite seasons to this day, even if I want to vomit every single time I think of the outcome at the end. And like, unfortunately, very similarly to that game, the game ends on basically on a Packers quarterback interception. We've seen that as of late, where these quarterbacks, as stellar as they are, and Favre and Rodgers and Love, have had opportunities at the end, and sometimes they haven't been able to do it. But I still look back at that season as one of my favorites because the expectations were not there. They made it all the way to the NFC Championship, should have made it to the Super Bowl. But even though it ended in brutal fashion, one of my favorite seasons ever. And I think this one will still go down as that, as this beautiful journey of a season, a vomit-inducing ending again, and a real, hopefully bridge to everything that you need in the future. They're going to have to make tweaks on defense. They're going to have to make tweaks in the defensive secondary, especially at safety. There's going to have to be some changes made. They're going to have to grow from it. They're going to have to get better. In this league, you are green and growing, or you are ripe and rotten. And if you don't make the necessary steps to continue to improve, they're going to need a better kicker. They're going to need a lot of different things. This is not just, like I said, a foregone conclusion where you're going to be fighting for an NFC championship again next year. You're going to have to earn it. But they have everything that they need in that foundation that they've set through the course of this season. So, Jay Western, keep dreaming, stay positive. Once the smoke clears and we pull the dagger directly out of our heart for like the 17,000th time as Packer fans, I promise you, I think we're going to look back on this season as positive, very fond, and like I said, a bridge to what's to come moving forward. Alex, fourth game we lost on a forced interception to CW plus unclutched D. Forced interception to CW. Oh, Christian Watson. Yeah, I guess I don't. I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't think that has anything to do with Christian Watson, by the way. The unclutched D definitely was an issue, and it sucks because I thought the defense had a pretty darn good game. And if I watch and evaluate Joe Barry on this game, and there's going to be some opportunities to do that. I thought he had a couple bad calls. There was a big third down where he blitzed Keyshawn Nixon, and it was just way too late. Like, there was never going to get there, and you have the crossing route, and it's just easy money. And then there's another play at the end where Brock Purdy scrambles to get to the 3rd and 1, and they're doing a stunt. And it's just like, why even allow your edge to come in that point? Just collapse the pocket and keep him in the pocket. You don't need to do the twist and stunt with Preston and Devontae Wyatt and hope that Wyatt's going to get outside. Instead, Purdy, is able to step up. But for the most part, I thought he put his defense in positions to be successful. There were far too many missed tackles, as we had fear of going into this game. And yeah, I mean, there were the drop pick six. Keyshawn Nixon had another play where he could have had an interception. In my opinion, again, first watch, I'll go back and rewatch it tonight. I'll do the all 22 tomorrow. But at first glance, my thought of this game was that Joe Barry put his players in a position to be successful. And far more often when they didn't succeed, it was on the players and not on the play call. That's just my first glance at it. But definitely did not come up clutch in the end, and definitely did force an interception at the end. And again, those are the things that make this so freaking painful. Appreciate all the super chats, by the way, guys. We got a ton. We got 31, I think, in here. Holy shnikes, we got a ton of these. We're going to keep going. We got 1,200 some people in here. I know we've got some Packers therapy to go through. Thank you, all of you, for joining. But we'll get to all of these. So as many super chats as you guys want, I'll answer all of them. We'll stay here until 3 in the morning if we need to. Future is bright. That being said, Green Bay has found monumental ways to choke in the playoffs the last 10 plus years. They find new ways to do so every time. Defense letting them down was predictable. And yes, unfortunately, there was a lot of predictability to the way that the end of this game went. You were just hoping, I know I found myself in the moment of this can't happen again. They're going to find a way. They're going to be the ones that find the big play this time. They're going to be the ones that find the play, and they just couldn't. And it was the same missed field goal, defensive drive, interception at the end, dagger to the heart. I joke, your comment here, they find new ways to do so every time. There's a great Onion article. My favorite little Onion piece of all time is that Taco Bell uses same ingredients to make all new Taco Bell menu item, because everything's the exact same ingredients. It's just in a different way. It's a beautiful Onion piece, but that's how I feel. And I've joked about this in the past about the Packers in the playoffs. Packers find new and exciting way to crush your soul using the same ingredients that they've used in all their other playoff defeats. It's they're just finding new and creative ways to break your heart. So trust me, Preston, I get it. But sometimes it is these sort of moments that make the overcoming them and the actual holding up of the Super Bowl trophy that much more worth it. Without the pain, sometimes the pleasure isn't quite as, amazing. And I think that sounded oddly sexual, and it did not mean to be. But yes, sometimes those things that you have to go through, make it all the much sweeter when you do get there in the end. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Randy, Jordan does have a habit of making horrendous decisions in this situation. Can you fix that, or is he just Brett Favre? I don't think I'm willing to make any like long-term decisions on what Jordan's going to be based on an interception that he threw at the end of this game. He'll learn from it. He hasn't had any of these really bad mistakes in a while. He's done a great job of avoiding them. The earlier interception with Kraft was just an inaccurate throw that had a little bit of bad luck combined with it as well. And then on the last one, it was just a really poor decision. And he's gone basically like 10 weeks without making those decisions. And it just sort of reared its ugly head at the wrong time. He's trying to make a play. And in that situation, he just has to not try to make a play. You just got to get rid of the ball and live to see another down. There's like 20 seconds left or something. You can give a little bit more forgiveness in that situation. But yeah, I think he's going to learn from it. The great thing about Jordan is that pretty much every mistake that he's made this year, he's almost immediately learned from. He'll learn from this. He'll be better for it next time. And this is a wildly successful season for Jordan Love. There's going to be some moments like this. There'll be more of them, but I do have faith that he's going to learn from it. All right. JJS breaks. There was only one scenario before the game that would have had pissed me off. Be the better teammate and still find a way to be the better team and still find a way to choke it away. They managed to do exactly that. Yeah. Like I said, it'd be unbelievable if it wasn't sort of predictable, right? The greatest playoff loss in the history was the Falcons game where they just got their face punched in and never had a chance. It was just like, oh, thank God you just ripped the Band-Aid right away. And I don't have to actually go through the pain and agony of thinking they're going to win and then having it taken away at the very last moment. I loved how they battled. I loved how they did face adversity and came through it on a couple different occasions in the game. But it just wasn't enough. And there's going to have to be a lot of learning moments from that. I do think they will. But yes, these, like I said at the very beginning of this, these do not get easier. They sting every single time. And no matter how many times we've gone through it, it still stings. And trust me, I'm sure it's not going to be the last one, especially now having Jordan and this team. They're going to be in a lot more playoff games, which probably means a lot more devastation as time goes on as well. But hopefully a few times that everything breaks their way and they get a big win and hopefully a Super Bowl win or two in that Jordan Love era. EA, this game was in our hands, which makes this loss hurt more. Love with the 3 bad throws, bad spot, and Carlson. Happy to make it this far, but still. Yeah, we didn't talk about the bad spot yet. That sucked. I was surprised that they didn't challenge it on that play, just to like, they only needed an inch. And I don't think they would have got it necessarily overturned, but I thought it was a big enough play in the game where you at least challenge and see if they maybe see something that gets you 1 more inch, because you get 1 more inch and it's a first down. And if they move it up just a little bit, you have the first down. Like I said, based on the camera angles, I think there's a good chance that it probably just stands as called, but you wish they just would have spotted it better. It's just a literal game of inches. If they spot it 1 inch further, it's a first down. I don't know that that's necessarily what they should do in that situation either. The tush push is not exactly their specific brand of football. And I don't know. But either way, you wish they just would have spotted it better, and it probably should have been a first down. But you wish you had the 3rd down back where Aaron didn't pick up the first down, and then you wish that they just spotted better. This is going to be the painful rewatch of this, is going through and being like, man, if just 1 or 2 things go slightly different, they probably win this game. Hey, Connor, thanks so much for becoming a new YouTube member. We hit 200 members today, which was really cool. We had a lot of actually, I just want to take a moment about that, because we hit 20,000 subscribers on YouTube today. We hit 200 members on YouTube today and hit 70,000 followers on Twitter today. And I just want you to know that that means a ton to me. And I am so appreciative of your support. This season's been a hell of a journey, and being able to do this alongside of you guys has meant a lot. This is my first season covering the team as my full-time job. There's things I think I can do even better moving forward. We're going to go back and watch the tape and try to improve going forward. But it was a hell of a lot of fun. And for all those things to sort of happen today, it just kind of hit me, and it was a really cool moment. So Connor, thanks for becoming a YouTube member. For those of you who haven't checked it out yet, definitely make sure to do so. We're going to have, coaching talk. Does Joe Barry stay? Do they go in a different direction? We're going to, of course, there might be some other coaches that they bring in or let go. We're going to have a lot of free agency talk. Draft talk is going to be epic. They've got 5 picks in the top 100. So we've got there's no sleep. We do this 365 days a year. There's always things to talk about. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure to do so. And again, appreciate you, Connor, and appreciate all of you guys for being on this journey with me this season. Christopher, why no 5 wide to get Warner and Greenlaw off the field and have a plus matchup with your 3rd, 4th, 5th wide receivers versus their corners? Probably something that they could have done a little bit more of. I think Zach Tom going out of this game is probably something that maybe changed a little bit of their game plans too. And if you do go 5 wide, you have to remember, A, they can still bring pressure, and B, now you've got the ability to tee off as a pass rusher, and you don't necessarily want to give that defensive front with all of the playmakers, Chase Young and specifically Nick Bosa and Hargrave and Armstead. You don't want those guys just teeing off at your offensive line, especially when you don't have Zach Tom in the game. So I do think that may have been a little bit of a factor there. Also, they're playing from ahead up until the final drive. So I think they were more apt to kind of go with their basic offense, try to run the ball. And to be fair, once they got the big run by Aaron Jones, the goal there is to just salt the game away. Hopefully kick the field goal, go up by 7. And unfortunately, things just kind of crumbled from there on out. But I know there's going to be things that Matt would have wished he would have done different. And maybe that's one of them. But I don't think that one thing of all the things in this game is probably the one that changed it all that much, especially with Zach Tom being out. Waylon, thank you for becoming a new member as well. Really appreciate that. And Nathan, thanks so much for your kindness. That is amazing of you. Really appreciate that a ton. Jack, thank you for all you do, Andy. It's Go Pack, Go Forever. The first Packers playoff game I watched was the 2012 divisional against the Niners, and every time we play them, my heart is wrenched out. Yeah, it's like the Dumb and Dumber scene where he just grabs his heart and pulls it right out, puts it in a little doggy bag and sends you on your way. That's what feeling going to San Francisco and playing, or even playing San Francisco at home in a playoff game feels like. It's like you've got everything there. It's right in front of you. Like I said earlier, they find some new and spectacular way to rip your heart out. But yeah, I feel you, Jack, but I appreciate the kind words, and we're on to 2024, 2025, and hopefully what's going to be an extremely exciting season this upcoming year. And we'll see what changes Green Bay makes along the way. All right. Jacques, thanks, Andy, for all the coverage this year. Another PF tough loss, but so much upside, playoff loss, I'm assuming, but so much upside for next year. Goody will kill it again in the draft. Yeah, he's got a lot of opportunity. 5 picks in the first 100. I think he's going to have like 10 or 11 picks again. This is going to be an exciting offseason. I do think there's going to be some restructures. Jordan Love's going to get a big deal. And you're probably going to end up with a little bit of salary cap space to maybe have some fun with. I think they probably get like one like mid-tier free agent would be my guess. And then adding those 5, top 100 picks, and you're hoping you can get healthy. We'll see what happens with David Bakhtiari. That would be an interesting development to see what happens there. There's not going to be a dearth of news and things to talk about this offseason. So Goody, big offseason ahead of him per usual. And he's got the opportunity to cement the foundation of this team and really make it so this could be a juggernaut moving forward if he crushes this draft. Ben Rear 787. The offense could have done better, but I gotta say our defense made a stand. They made 49ers fight for every point. Kudos to special teams recoveries. Yeah, there's going to be things for offense, defense, and special teams that they can point to and be satisfied with. There's going to be things for offense, defense, and special teams that they're going to be really disappointed by. And I think all 3 phases can know that it wasn't just their phase that, blew the game. I think all 3 phases are going to go back and watch the tape and be like, man, we could have just done a little bit better and we would have had a win in that game. And, I think that's probably not the worst thing in the world, that all 3 have things to take away and learn from this one. On special teams, you get a huge kick return from Keyshawn Nixon. That also is a fumble. That's also a huge recovery from Eric Wilson. You get the blocked field goal, which is a huge play in the game. You get there's a tackle, I think, like inside the 15-yard line on a kick return. Special teams did some really good things, but you've got the Anders Carlson missed field goal. That is just that's going to be the lasting image of this game. Defensively, same thing. Like you had some key moments, you had some big stops, you did enough to get the offense the ball enough and keep everything in this game. But when the game is on the line, you allowed them to go right down the field and score a touchdown to win the game. And for the offense, just didn't put up enough points. If you would have said, that the defense held to 24, I would have liked Green Bay's chances in this one. I would have said it's probably a coin flip if Green Bay gets there or not, but I think everyone else does enough in that situation. Now, part of that's because, Green Bay would have had 24-2 had it not been for the missed field goal. But we can go back and forth on that all day, because if you don't have the special teams blocking the field goal, 49ers have 3 more points. If Keyshawn Nixon doesn't do the big kick return, does Green Bay have those points? So we can go back and forth, but I think that's where I kind of come down on it, is like There's things positive for offense, defense, and special teams, and there are things that are negative on offense, defense, and special teams. All right. JJS breaks. There was one scenario before the game that would have had me pissed off. By far and away the better team and managed to choke the game away like the Pack in the playoffs always do. Mission accomplished. I feel you, JJS breaks. We've definitely talked about it. It stings. It really, really stings. It sucks. Whatever adjective that you want to use, you can add a lot of swear words in there as well, but it doesn't get easier. Cut Carlson. He is hot garbage. Yeah, we talked about this, David. I don't think they will cut Carlson, but I don't think he's just coming to training camp, with no competition. I think there's definitely going to be competition there. There should have been competition this week. There should have been somebody in there this week. And I think it was easy for, like, you can't miss 6 extra points and be like, yeah, we still have a lot of faith. Like he's telling you like, hey, I don't got this. It's loud and clear. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready for this moment yet. And maybe he is next year. But there's ways to do that. And there's ways that you could have kept him on the 53. Hell, you probably could have released. I don't think anyone's claiming Anders Carlson. If you waive him, you could waive him and put him back on the practice squad in all likelihood. But you had an open 53-man roster spot. There's a lot of veteran kickers out there, including the one that's been for the franchise for a while. And listen, maybe you pick up Mason Crosby and it's even worse. Maybe he misses a bunch of them. Who the hell knows? But I think we all could have saw this coming with Anders. Again, Anders told you. He told you, I am not ready for this. I'm missing all of these extra points. He's telling you there's an issue, and you have to listen when a player is telling you I can't play. And it sucks. I wish he just would have crushed all the field goals and all the extra points, and Green Bay had their next, decade-long kicker like Mason Crosby. At this point, they just don't. And it's just the truth of the matter. Connor, did Joe Barry do enough to keep his job for one more year? Execution seemed to be the issue. Play calling largely felt solid. I agree with that second part, Connor. I think Green Bay is still going to think long and hard about what they want to do in this decision. My understanding, I don't know this for fact. Again, there's no contract page for coaches like there is for players. My understanding is it sounds like his contract is up. So it's not just, do you want him back for this year? Do you want to fire him? It's, do you want to sign him to an extension? Do you want to sign him to another 3 or 4 year deal? And I think there's going to have to be a long and hard thought process with that. Now, that being said, these past 4 weeks have been much, much better for Joe Barry. And if you had to tell me right now what's more important to the defense this offseason, getting a different defensive coordinator or getting better players, specifically in the secondary, and getting more talent, I would still say it's getting more talent. I'm not making a case for Joe Barry. I'm not. I would go in a different direction. I think there are simply better defensive coordinator options that are out there. And I think it's like any position that you have on this team. Goody constantly says roster building is a 365-day-a-year process. And you're constantly evaluating what you have on your roster against what you can potentially bring in and how you can get better. And it's not to say that Joe Barry might not be an NFL defensive coordinator. It's not to say that he hasn't been good these past few games. It's not to necessarily say anything like that. But if you've got guys like Wink Martindale and guys that you just look and you say apples to apples, who's the better coordinator, and you can pretty easily say that guy, then it's the same thing as churning your roster. You just have to look for every avenue that you can at all times to make slight incremental improvements. And if Wink Martindale is 1/10 better than Joe Barry, then you make the move for Wink Martindale and you have a 1/10 better defensive coordinator. And that small 1/10 might matter. So I would go in a different direction, but we obviously have the next couple weeks probably to talk about that. We'll see what Green Bay does. If I were a betting man right now, I would probably say he's back next year. But I do think if it is in fact the case that his contract is up, they should think long and hard about, hey, it's not just firing the guy. Do you want to sign him to a 3 or 4 year deal? Because you're not going to sign him to a 1-year deal. That just doesn't happen. So the question becomes, do you want to sign Joe for 3 seasons, knowing that if you fire him, you still have to pay him? Or do you just want to go in a different direction and bring someone new in? But we'll have the next couple weeks certainly to talk about that, Connor. Appreciate the chat. Cody, I'm so happy we got to see Packers play a football again. Didn't think we'd be here in October. Proud of this young squad. Thanks for another great year of content, Andy. Cody, appreciate you. Appreciate the positivity. Like I said, when the smoke clears on everything, totally believe that we're all going to look back on this season extremely fondly, but have that, need an antacid feeling every time we think of how it ended. And It is an absolute punch to the gut. You're up 7 in the second. Yeah, I don't even want to go through it anymore, but everything was right there. But yes, fun season to look back on, I think, over time. Jackie Pack fan, I think we are going to be a force in the seasons ahead. These young men are just getting started. I do believe for truly complementary football, we need to fix special teams and improve defense. Yeah, I do think, sorry, 1 second here, guys. All right, sorry, did not mean to get all up in your face, but I have a space heater on and I am roasting, so I needed to turn that off. But yes, I do think that this team is going to have to make those improvements on defense and special teams. And it's going to be who is ever back, whether it's, I think Rich Bisaccia will clearly be back. Joe Barry's another question, but who's ever at coordinator for both of those is going to be a huge season next year for both. We know what this offense can do. Now, this is a big game for the offense against a really tough defense on the road in wet conditions, and they had opportunities to be better. So offense needs to grow as well, but defense and special teams, I think, have the ability to get a lot better. And if that happens, then look the hell out. But Jackie, I'm in full agreement with you there. Oh, Wade, super cool of you doing that. Hopefully whoever got those memberships will enjoy them. And again, always love when people do that. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Commercial-free bonus episode every single week. Live members-only Q&A every single week. So if you like these interactions, you get to do it with members only, which is a ton of fun. So yeah, definitely hope whoever got those enjoys them, and hope you stick around. Will, what a fun season. Love will only get better. Need to learn to run in certain scenarios, but he'll figure it out. Thanks for great content all year. Yeah, either run or just at times just throw the ball away, right? I love the way that Jordan plays quarterback, meaning he's constantly keeping his eyes downfield and looking for throws that he can make rather than looking to take off. You would so much rather have it that way than he's taking off all the time and trying to do too much with his legs. And you have to like peel that back and say like, whoa, don't run as often. I do think there's opportunities for him to use his legs more. Do think there's opportunities for him to chuck the ball out of bounds like in that last play. But sometimes with these situations, and you have to kind of think back to Brett a little bit on this, but sometimes you do need to take a little bit of the good with the bad. Jordan's been making these ad-lib plays across his body, across the field all season long. And I would say on the whole, like 9 out of 10 times, it's been a net positive. Every once in a while in a situation like that, you're going to get a play like that. Now, that's not the time you can do it. That's the big thing he needs to learn. It's one thing if that interception happens in the third quarter of week 5 and you can, you live through it, whatever. Just can't happen in the divisional round game on the line with a minute left against the 49ers. That's when it can't happen. But I do think there's a little bit of needing to take the good with the bad there with Jordan making those type of plays. Vex, good to see you, buddy. How is that not grounding on San Francisco in the past to no one and draft a damn kicker or 3? Carlson has been given too many excuses and chances. Yep. I mean, listen, if Carlson is released and somebody picks him up and he goes on to have a great career, I don't think anyone's going to blame Goody. Like we all saw that it was not working in Green Bay. It's the same as Amari Rodgers, right? Had Amari Rodgers got picked up by the Texans, which he did, and just gone on to have a really nice career with Houston, I don't know how you can be too upset with Goody for releasing him when he did, because everyone was calling for his release. Everyone knew it was time. It just was not going to work in Green Bay. So it's great that he moved on and was successful somewhere else, but it just wasn't going to work. And that's probably where we're at with Anders. It's probably not going to work. And again, Green Bay has been loyal to these type of players. They were loyal with Mason on numerous occasions, and they stuck with him. And he ended up being what's probably going to be a Packer Hall of Famer. But it's going to be tough for him to overcome this. And listen, I will always say, if the path forward is that just Anders stays and he's awesome, that would be my preferred path. That he learns from the mistakes this year and he becomes one of the best kickers in the league. Awesome. That would be amazing. What a great story. But you have to have a very short leash from here on out. And just know that, like, if he gets to mini camps and OTAs and training camp and it's the same old crap and he's just completely inconsistent and you don't know what you're going to get on any given play, then it's just time. And you have to know that it's time. You can't just stick with him for the sake of sticking with him. And that doesn't mean, by the way, it doesn't mean that you can't waive him. And again, if some other team picks him up, great, whatever. But you could still put him on the practice squad. If you have a long-term belief and you think that he just needs more time and development, you got 16 freaking practice squad spots. If you want to use one on a developmental kicker, be my guest. I don't care. You can't have a developmental kicker on a team that's fighting for an NFC championship game spot. That's the mistake. If you want to develop him on the practice squad on the side over there and Rich and him can, yuck it up and like work on their stuff through the course of the season, great. That's fine. The time for him to learn is not when you need a 41-yard field goal in the divisional round to advance. That's not the on-the-job training that you want for your rookie kicker. So that's where I'm at with it. Timothy. All right. We still got a lot of super chats, guys. So keep them coming. Like I said, I'm going to stay here until we get through all of them. Sorry for all of those of you who are in the regular chat. Like I've got so many super chats to go through that I can't really look at anything else. And I'm just trying to stay up to date with everything that's going on in here. All right. Where did I leave off? Now I think I lost my spot here. All right. There we go. What did you think about Jonathan Owens' performance today? And do you keep him next season? First glance looked like a really tough performance for Jonathan Owens. Looked like a really tough performance for all of the safeties today. Anthony Johnson Jr., Darnell Savage, and Jonathan Owens. I thought that was one of the most surprising position groups of the season where I expected it to be terrible, and it was not. It wasn't good, wasn't great. It was fine. It was fine. And that was a huge upgrade over what expectations were going into the season. You didn't notice the safeties all that much. And just last week, Darnell Savage played one of the best games of his career. And this one, not so much. Far too many missed tackles, missed assignments, missed pick sixes. The safety group I felt like really could have changed this game around in a major way. But as far as who they bring back, that's a position group that, as I feel right now, and I know I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth a little bit because just last week I was giving Darnell Savage his flowers a little bit for having a much better season and coming off one of his best games of the year. But this is the issue with Darnell Savage. You don't know what the hell you're going to get week in and week out. One week it might look really good, and then the next week it looks like complete crap. And that inconsistency is what gets you killed in the NFL. You would rather have a consistently mid player than a player that's going to give you an A one week and an F the next week. The mid player, I can understand and I can put them in situations where I know I can't put them in high leverage spots. With the player that's going to give me an A or an F, just when I start gaining confidence of like, oh, I can trust this guy, it's like, oh, no, I cannot trust them at all. I just think in the safety group as a whole, you need to go shopping, draft, free agency, all of it. They need a new safety group. If you want to bring one of these guys back as continuity, you bring back a Jonathan Owens on a 1-year minimum deal, along with why can't I think of his name? Anthony Johnson Jr., Zane Anderson and Benny Sapp are back on, training camp deals to have a chance to make the team. And then you bring in 2 rookies and maybe an experienced veteran that's more than a Jonathan Owens or a Darnell Savage. I think that's probably the way to go, but they need to go shopping at that position. Charming Mocha 18. Do we draft and hit free agency with the goal of playoffs now? Yeah, guys, the goalposts, not to bring up this, but the goalposts have moved on where Green Bay's at. I still don't think that they should go like in an all-in mode right now. I do think they try to stay the course in 2024 for the most part, use those draft picks to restock, kind of keep the team together. Devondre is probably the veteran that you move on from, and then you've got the Bakhtiari decision / situation that you have to figure out. But I think Bakhtiari and Devondre are your cap situations that you have to figure out and deal with. I think Devondre is probably a no-brainer. He was no longer a full-time player at the end of the year. You don't keep him around if he's not a full-time player, and he's just not. He's lost it. He's lost a step. So that to me is an easy decision. The Bakhtiari one is cloudy, but you basically keep the rest of this team together. Now, you can let Runyon go in free agency, Dillon go in free agency, Nyman go in free agency. I'm not really worried about any of the free agents. If you want to bring any of them back on a cheap deal, that's fine. I'm not going to be upset, but you can let those guys walk and be fine. But I think you mostly keep the team together that you have, add those top five top 100 picks, add maybe one name free agent, like mid-tier free agent, and then still stay salary cap friendly, and then start working off some of those bigger deals. And then in 2025 is when you can really go shopping and spend some money. And I think the big reason for that too is if you get to midway through 2024 and your team's just awesome, they're like 7-1 at the trade deadline or something, you can go trade deadline shopping too and still like aggressively approach it at that time. But I think in the offseason, one mid-tier free agent, bringing those draft picks, mostly keep the team together, decision on Devondre, decision on Bakhtiari, and kind of go from there. But yeah, they should go into next season feeling like they can fight for anything. Go try to win it all. You were not far off this year, and prove that against a really good team in San Francisco. Joe's Home Theater. Love was due for a bad game. However, I am all in with 10 and our young core. If they make a second-year leap, watch out. O-line, running back, and kicker in the draft. Go Pack, go. I think there's a lot of things at play here. I think, again, the Zach Tom injury, I do think derailed some things. I do think that the conditions played a little bit of a part. And I give San Francisco's defense a ton of credit as well. They played a really good game. There was pressure with only 4, a lot in this game, which most teams haven't been able to do. And I think they're going to learn from this one. But I am all in on this offense as well. I don't think they need any major pieces. I think you want to continue to build the depth on that offensive line. We'll see what happens with the Bakhtiari situation, but they're in a beautiful, beautiful spot moving forward. And it's also the importance of home field advantage. Not that they couldn't, there couldn't be conditions in Green Bay in this time of year as well, but playing at home and, at least not having rainy weather may have gone a long way for Green Bay in this one too. So they're going to need to be better in the regular season to make sure that they're not playing on the road in those type of conditions. How do we not get the block in the back call on the Christian McCaffrey touchdown? Frankly, Folick, I didn't see it. I'd have to go back and watch it. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to do a quick rewatch of the game. And then I'll do tomorrow's podcast and kind of break it down in a little bit more, specific way. And then I'll watch the all 22 tomorrow. But I didn't see it on first glance, Folick. But if there was one, that certainly sucks. But I thought for the most part, they kind of swallowed their whistles. I didn't have any outside of the ball placement on a couple of those short yardage ones. Didn't have a major issue with the referees in this one, and certainly would not point to the referees overall and say that's the reason that they lost the game. I think you would point to Green Bay more than you would point to officiating in this one. Slim Lewis, feeling optimistic about another Goody draft class. One hell of a run by this young team. The future is bright. Love needs to protect the ball, though. We have to remember Love has done a great job of protecting the ball over the second half of the season. San Francisco's a good defense, sloppy conditions, couple errant throws. You could tell Jordan looked like a little bit amped up in this game, just never really got in his sweet spot and in his groove. And we've talked about it. He's a little bit of a rhythm thrower. And when he gets in a rhythm, look out. And if he's not quite in that rhythm, can just look a little bit off. And today, never quite found that rhythm, which is just a little bit off. He's going to have to learn how to calm those emotions a little bit, even though he's like one of the most even-keeled quarterbacks we've seen. I still think even a Jordan Love has the ability to feel the emotions in that type of moment. I think he just never quite got into a rhythm in this one. Rodrigo, up and down season from the first drive to the last. Guys, I said this a couple weeks. I got plenty wrong on predictions this season. We can talk about predictions too. But I've got plenty wrong on predictions. There were things I was right about. There was things I was wrong about. That's going to be the same every single year. But if there was one thing that I said all offseason into the season, there are going to be extremely high highs and extremely low lows. And you are about to embark on a roller coaster ride like you haven't experienced in a while. And my freaking goodness, talk about extremely high highs, extremely low lows. This is a team that showed that they could legitimately beat and hang with any team in the NFL, legitimately lose and, hang with any awful team in the NFL. Amazing moments that we'll reflect on for a really long time. Heartbreaking moments that we'll think back on. We'll be talking about the Tommy DeVito game. We'll talk about Baker Mayfield looking like an MVP, this heartbreaking 49ers loss. We'll also talk about Jordan Love looking like the next great quarterback through the course of the season. This young wide receiver core stepping up, Bo freaking Melton coming out of nowhere. It's just going to be a total season of roller coaster rides and high highs and low lows. And what you're hoping for next season is that those highs stay. You still get some of those highs, but those low lows start smoothing out a little bit more, and you don't quite get to those bottom out periods. And we saw it in the middle of games, in the middle of the season. You didn't know which team was going to show up. Sometimes drive to drive, week to week. It was just all over the place. But that's what you want to see, is just that consistency, step up a little bit and still have the ability to go out and beat any team. I think we'll see that smooth out a little bit over the course of the next year. Zephyri, thank you for being a member for 3 months. I have no belief that the NFL is rigged, but you do you, my friend. If that's totally fine if that's your belief. But I have zero, getting an up close and personal view of it from obviously being in the press box and covering the team up close. 0.0% chance that it is rigged, in my opinion. Mario, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Big Al, this loss reminds me of Rodgers versus Cardinals in 09, and the Packers were the better team in 3/4. Yeah, there's a few different games that this certainly reminds me of. Unfortunately, there are far too many games that this heartbreaking ending reminds me of, and that's the disappointing aspect. But with these losses come a lot of personal growth sometimes, and I think that's what you're hoping for out of this team, is that they respond to it, they learn from it, they get better from it, and they make sure that they don't want to go through that feeling ever again. And I think they're going to all go back and think on this one and marinate on it for a while, and know that if each of them could have done just a little bit better, this could have been a Super Bowl team. So yeah, but definitely some eerie similarities to some other playoff seasons and playoff endings. That's for sure. Casey, super kind of you. Thank you so much. Big fan from Atlanta. Thanks for all you do. What are your thoughts on keeping David Bakhtiari versus trading him next year? Rasheed Walker has looked great. Couple of things on Bakhtiari. I've talked about this on numerous occasions, but there's 0.0% chance of a trade, in my opinion. I think that's just out the window. Goody, the last time he talked, said David's going to have to make some decisions on his future. David has basically said he wants to continue to play. Why Goody would say that is because he knows it's probably beneficial at this point if Bakhtiari just retires. If he just retires, he forfeits his $21 million in regular season roster money. And you might just say, well, why would you care if he retires? Just release him if you don't want to pay him the $21 million. He's guaranteed $19 million no matter what. The $21 million in base salary is not guaranteed. However, if Bakhtiari is injured or hurt and you release him, and let's say they deem that he would have been out for the first 10 weeks of the season, you prorate that $21 million over 10 weeks of the season, and you still owe Bakhtiari that money. Let's say they deem that Bakhtiari wouldn't be able to play at all next year. You owe Bakhtiari all $21 million of those dollars, and that money still goes against the salary cap. So if there's an injury settlement and Bakhtiari is not deemed capable of playing, first of all, nobody's going to trade for him if he's hurt. Second of all, you can't release him because you're going to end up basically paying him anyway. Long story short, too long didn't read. It's a mess and it's a nightmare of a situation. There's two good scenarios, in my opinion, that come out of this. Number one, and maybe the best, is that Bakhtiari is just healthy and he's great and he's good to go. And Green Bay and Bakhtiari decide to restructure his contract. They can't pay him $21 million base salary. He knows that. Green Bay knows that because the injury issue is too severe. And they decide to come to a renewed deal. Maybe it's roster bonuses per game played or something like that. And he plays next year at an all-pro level and you get your all-pro left tackle back. That's the happy ending story. Another story is Bakhtiari's healthy and ready to play. And you say, hey, that's great, but we're not paying you $21 million. And he says, that's fine. Release me. I will go sign somewhere else where I can get the most money possible. And Green Bay says, that's fine. We are happy to do that because we would rather be off the $21 million and you can go play with Aaron in New York. Even though we love you, we respect you, we wish you were a Packer for life. It's just the monetary doesn't make sense. So he goes somewhere else and signs and you get clear of that $21 million. If he's healthy, there's really only good scenarios that happen. You save the $21 million, or he probably plays for less and he plays really well for Green Bay. That's the hope. If he's not healthy enough at the start of the season, then just things get super, super messy and you probably end up paying him in some capacity and maybe up to the entire 21 million base plus 19 million in bonus, costs 40 million against the salary cap. And there's just nothing you can do about it other than restructure portions of it. And that just kicks it out later into future years, which I don't think you're super excited about either. So no trade, possible release, doubt there's a retirement, but not impossible. But that's going to be a key situation and scenario to monitor through the course of this season. Ryan, thanks for the chat. Appreciate that. Most Hated Minnesotan, thank you so much for being here all year, my man. Really appreciate you. Congrats on the success on the channels, Andy. Appreciate that a ton. Mario, I thought you couldn't challenge reviewed as a turnover. I have to look back on that, Mario. That's one I'm not super clear on. I know that's what Olsen said. I'd have to look if turnover on downs is not reviewable in that situation, if they would have had to come from upstairs. I'll say it this way without looking at it right now. I'm surprised either A, they didn't challenge, or if they couldn't challenge, I'm surprised the booth didn't look at it in that situation. It's too, like, at least stop the game and make sure you got it right. Even if there's not a clear and obvious view, like just stop it and double check and make sure you look at it. So either way, there should have either been a booth review or a challenge in that situation, even if it ultimately wouldn't have overturned it either way. But I'll have to go back and look at that rule, Mario. Rodrigo, thanks for the season. You're damn good at your job, Rodrigo. I really, truly appreciate that. It does mean a ton. Chief Chizak Ben Uriel. I love that name. How could they let the kicker stay so long? He's been horrible like all season. Ahsoka with upside. No, did good, but he's not a championship coach. Yeah, I'm not sure where we're talking Star Wars in the middle of this. But yeah, like I said, the kicker situation is messy and they held on too long. And we talked about it all season where it's probably going to cost you, and it cost them at the exact worst time. I don't know. There's more to say on it, honestly. Just is what it is at this point. Ryan, in a lighter note, Alex Strofe was right on his prediction in the offseason about the Packers getting a 4-game win streak and a 4-game losing streak. He sure was. That was an interesting roller coaster part of the season, the 4-game losing streak and the 4-game winning streak. Wish it was a 7-game winning streak instead of a 4-game winning streak, but alas, it was not. But Alex and Perry will be back with me tomorrow night, so you will hear them on Monday on the YouTube and the audio versions. T1 going in, and really, like, you guys are the best. I really appreciate you guys a ton. This is amazing. Going into the year, it felt like 2008, a year to see if Love was the guy. After the KC game, I thought 2009 was a better comparison. Is it crazy to think the Super Bowl window starts on? No, I mean, the Super Bowl window started, in the playoffs this year. They had every right to beat San Francisco. And if they beat San Francisco, they had every right to beat Detroit or Tampa. I think it would have been extremely tough for this team to go Dallas, San Francisco, Detroit or Tampa, and then Baltimore, Buffalo, or KC. I don't know that this team had that run in them. I just don't. I mean, obviously they didn't. They lost to San Fran. But at the same token, they're not afraid of anyone. They hung with what is probably the second best team in football, maybe the best team in football in San Fran in their house, and they had every right to win. So no, the Super Bowl window is open. It's alive and well. But again, they're going to have to continue to grow and get better. I'll say that again. CJ Smalls, regardless of tonight, we have our team for the next 5+ years. Screaming, go Pack, go. Yeah, here's how I'll put it. They set the foundation and open the window moving forward. They still need high-end players. And what I mean by that is you go back to 2010. How many players did they have playing at a Pro Bowl or better level? Nick Collins, Tramon Williams. I don't know that Sam Shields was quite in the Pro Bowl level, but he's playing really insane ball. Charles Woodson, Clay Matthews, Cullen Jenkins was pretty damn close. BJ Raji at times was pretty damn close. Their inside linebackers at times were close. Aaron Rodgers, obviously Greg Jennings was very close to playing at that level. They had multiple offensive linemen playing at that level. They had a lot of guys that were playing really high caliber football consistently. That's the next step for a lot of these young guys. They need Rashawn to play at that level consistently. They need Kenny to play at that level. They need LVN to get to that level. They need Quay to get a near or around that level. They need Ja to play at that level. They need to probably find a safety to play near that level. They need Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins at minimum to play at that level. Jordan Love to play at that level. Jones to play at that level. A couple of these receivers to play at that level. That's the next step. You have a ton of really good players. Now, which ones step up and are great? And I think we saw it out of Jordan this year. We saw greatness. Zach Tom, pretty freaking close. Elton Jenkins, pretty freaking close. There's a couple other ones, obviously, as well. But that's the next step, is which players on this roster become legends, become all-stars, become all-pros. That's what you're really looking for as the next step for this team. John, great season. Proud of these guys and proud to be a fan. Me too, buddy. Me too. Sucks to have it end this way, but man, I love being a Packer fan. Wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Jake, thank you for your insight, Andy. Love Pack-A-Day. Hope we finally find our defensive coordinator we've spent years looking for. Go Pack, go. It's going to be a really interesting story over the course of the next, week and a half as to what happens with the defensive coordinator position. So, we'll be talking about it a lot, and we'll be breaking it all down, going over what options are available. And I would still probably lean at this point. It's probably just Joe Barry, but we shall wait and see. Bolliker 19. The silver king of this heartbreak, the silver lining of this heartbreak, I'm assuming, is that we just gave the youngest team in the playoffs a chip on their shoulder, as well as big game experience for young players. On to 2024. Go Pack, go. Totally agreed. They are going to you have to have these experiences. Like every single team needs these experiences. They have to have that, the feeling they have to be able to overcome stuff, because it is extremely rare that you see a team that just is like, oh, we're just great now, we're not going to lose to anyone. It takes time for them to have that heartbreak. I mean, I guess like the Brady Patriots just went down and won in Brady's rookie or right away. So I guess it happens from time to time, but more often than not, you have to go through these experiences to really learn from them and know what you need to do better moving forward. I do think this is going to make Green Bay stronger in the long run. Eddie, 3-generational Mexican fan of the Packers here. Love your content, Andy. It's become part of my Packers routine. What an exciting future. Eddie, that is a amazingly tremendous gesture. I appreciate that so freaking much. And I really appreciate that you're enjoying the content as well. I'm glad that you're liking it. Like I said, we're doing it 365. It's not stopping here. We just hit 2,000 consecutive days on the audio podcast, and we're only going to get better, bigger, stronger. And like I have a whole off season now where I'm not worried. This is my first off season that I'll ever not be working a full-time job. So I'm going to dig into the draft like I've never been able to dig into the draft before. Same thing with free agency. Watch so much film. I'm going to get smarter as a football analyst. I'm going to do a ton of reading. I'm going to try to do everything I can to be the best possible version of myself for you guys moving forward. I think this is going to be a really fun off season. I'm going to keep trying to learn as much more as I possibly can, so I can hopefully keep bringing you guys the best possible content. Can't wait for it. Jackie, thank you so much for becoming a member. Appreciate that a ton. Mountain Man Pack, every single time I see your name, it's just a beautiful, beautiful name. How is this different than the last 19 years? We are always so close, and there's always an excuse. The only thing I would disagree with there, Mountain, is I don't think there's any excuses. There's no excuses when you lose in a heartbreaking way at the end of the year. I don't think anyone's making an excuse for what happened to Green Bay kind of choking this game away. We can blunt the blow a little bit and say it's a bright future ahead, and it should be. There's no guarantee of that, but it should be. But at the same token, that's why we talked about at the onset. This is a stab to the heart. And no matter how many times we go through it, it does not get easier. And I don't think anyone's saying that oh, it sucks, but there is a little bit, again, we can blunt it a little bit by saying they weren't supposed to be here. They have a bright future ahead of them. Jordan loves the guy. All of those things are helpful, but they still choked away a game where they should have went to go to the NFC Championship game. I'm with you. There's not an excuse. And it's not different than any of the other playoff collapses. It's just a younger team, and you can see it coming maybe a little bit more. But just because you can see the train coming from a little bit further down the tracks doesn't make it any less painful when it hits you at full speed. I'll just put it that way. In fact, I think it might make it more painful. Zephyroy, so many missed calls this game for the 49ers. There's no way the NFL isn't rigged. 80% of the money lines were on Green Bay. Hard to continue supporting it. Can't send super chats with ad block on now. Thanks, YouTube. I'm not sure about the ad block super chat thing, but I do appreciate your support, Zephyroy. I hope that you will find it in you to somehow still love football, because it is the freaking best and it brings all of us together. And like I said, knowing what I see on a day-to-day basis, there's nothing that tells me that anything's rigged, but who knows? Maybe there'll be something in the coming years that it says, yep, Vegas threw it. Just don't see it. Imagine if we had just signed Crosby for the playoffs. Yeah, maybe. Certainly would have probably been a better 41-yard field goal than what Carlson provided, but who knows? Who knows what butterfly effect that would have caused? They probably, yeah. It was an option there, though, Vex. It was definitely an option. Evan, hope this is the team's version of the 2013 loss, basically outgunned, but damn close looking forward. Yeah, although, I mean, the 2013 loss didn't amount to them learning from it and getting better and winning a Super Bowl after that. They won in 96 and 2010. So yeah, like, I guess you could say like maybe this is getting it out of their system now. Like we're getting the really heartbreaking one out of the system now, and it's just smooth sailing from here for Jordan. If that's the case, sign me the hell up. I will absolutely take that. Jay McCarthy, being loyal is great. Being over loyal is still admirable. Being over loyal to a rookie kicker after that season is malpractice. Go Pack, go. Don't disagree. don't disagree. Like I said, there were options. There were options available, and that's going to sting. It should sting Matt and Brian and everyone on that franchise as much, if not more, than it stings Anders. Like there are options available to you to try to get better at that spot. If you're asked all week by the media about the kicker, saying like, do you still have faith in the kicker? Are you going to bring somebody in? Is there a different opportunity at kicker? What's going wrong at kicker? And your answer is, we have all the faith in the world in him, and he blows it again. That's what you signed up for. That's what you signed up for. Like I said, it sucks. And they were over loyal in this situation. A lot of times being over loyal has benefited them in some major, major ways. This clearly not one of them, and certainly a time that backfired on them. All right, Jay McCarthy. Guys, we've got over 65 super chats and new members already in this chat. 900 people still here. We've been talking for over an hour. Again, appreciate you guys so freaking much. No, this was a heartbreaker, but I love how far our team went this year. It's been one of the most fun seasons I've had in a long time. Thanks for all the chats and info this season. Sandy, you are more than welcome. I had a blast as well. And this is why we do it, right? Like, I know we do it to like hopefully get to the end and, hoist a Super Bowl trophy and do a parade and celebrate and get super drunk after and everything like that. That sounds a lot more fun, but like, I'm sure you guys have heard that a lot of times the journey is greater than the end. And my best example of that now, 96 and 2010, especially 2010, I have like just amazing memories of. I was at Game 6 in Milwaukee when the Bucks won the championship. It was awesome being there. Giannis putting up 50 points. When I look back at that, I look back at the season as a whole. As soon as they won, as soon as the confetti's coming down and, there's tears in everyone's eyes because the Bucks finally did it. They won a championship. Giannis got his trophy, everything like that. But there was a part like right after that where you're like, oh, I guess I drive back to Green Bay now. And then I go to work the next day and life goes on. The moment is amazing. There's no question about it. But the journey along the way still for me is better than everything. And even though these are kick you in the groin, awful moments at the end, this journey through this season is something I will remember forever. Like I loved this effing season. I love this team. I love watching them grow. I'm going to love watching them bounce back from this game. And I'm so excited to be a Packer fan of this team moving forward. This team effing rules. Like they're a ton of fun. They had no quit. They fought all throughout the season. They were 2-5. They were 3-6 with 3 games everyone thought they were going to lose coming up. They could have been 3-9 and just dead, and us wondering if Jordan was going to be the guy. And instead we got this. So yeah, the kick to the groin moment came still at the end. It does for pretty much everyone except one team. Pretty much everyone but one team has that moment at some point at the end of the season. But this was a hell of a ride, and I really appreciated the journey this year. Appreciate the chat, Sandy. Bex, did Pat get away from Aaron Jones too much? I think a lot of this stuff really is like circumstantial. It's not like they just ran a bunch of like Emmanuel Wilson and Patrick Taylor. They did get out of the run for a little bit at times in the game. But I didn't have like a major issue with it in the moment. You also have to remember up until that big run, like Jones and the offense, actually, they weren't running the ball well. They were averaging around 3 yards per carry up until that 50-yard run. I think there's things that they could have done better in the running game, but I won't go back in this one and be like, if they just would have given Jones the ball a few more times, they would have won. I think there were opportunities for them to win with the stuff that was called, and they didn't get it done. Again, when you have something like this, there's going to be things that you like go back and wonder what if, and there'll be a million what ifs in this game. And maybe if they did give Jones the ball a few more times, maybe things would have gone better. But I think, like I said, on the list of what ifs, that's probably well down on the list for me. Dunny third, thanks for all your great content this year. Congrats on 20K followers. I look forward to turning the page and what you have in store for us. Appreciate that a ton. We might get the return of Spreadsheet Andy. For those who know, you know. We'll take a look at the salary cap, take a look at free agency, which players will be back, which players will be gone. Restricted free agency, unrestricted free agency, the draft, undrafted free agency, breaking down every pick with a fine tooth comb. Draft is going to be so fun this year. Can't wait. Off season is, it almost at times is as fun, if not more fun at times than what the regular season is. And I know that because my numbers in March and April go even higher than a lot of times than they are during the season. Hope springs eternal in March and April. And when you get those new players and then OTAs and mini camps and training camps, we got a lot of fun ahead of us. And it's a lot more fun because that foundation is set. We have a lot of really fun players to cheer for already moving forward. J. Henry Glover, thanks so much for becoming a member as well. A lot of new members tonight. Appreciate that. Thoughts on the Rasul trade at this point in time? I'll say the same thing that I said the last 2 weeks when I was asked this. I don't think they regret it. I think they're happy to have the 3rd round pick. I do think that if they knew they were going to be in this position, with the benefit of hindsight, they just would have kept him. Would have Rasul changed the game today? Probably not. I thought Valentine had a pretty darn good game. I thought Ja had a pretty darn good game. I don't know that it changes all that much in this game, but I'll stick to the same thing I've been saying. Don't think they regret it. Think they're happy to have the pick. I don't think having Rasul would have changed this from like losing to the 49ers to winning the Super Bowl. But they do have a hole at corner moving forward. He would have been on the roster next season as well under contract, but they did save some money. They did get the 3rd round pick. I know they had to give up a 5th as well. So I don't think there's like major regret, but had they known they'd be in this position, and you have to remember when they made that trade, they were playing horribly and they were 2-5. So they didn't have the benefit of knowing they were going to be in the playoffs. But if they knew then what they knew now, they probably just hold on to him, but not a ton of regret, if any. Top 5 fumble recovery ever by Eric. Mistakenly got my hopes up and am crushed after promising myself I wouldn't. Thanks for another great year, Andy. Man, that was an awesome play by Eric Wilson. And just the hustle that takes. There's a reason that dude was the special teams captain going into the game. That was an awesome return by Nixon. They set it up beautifully. And you wish you could have housed it, but awesome recovery by Wilson and a nice special teams overall. You wish Nixon just went to fumbled in the first place, but that was a pretty cool play by Eric Wilson. And thank you for the kind words, Joseph. All right, Vex, I'll let you get it off your chest. Let me be negative for a minute. Why are we excited for Brian Gutekunst's draft when he's had plenty of defensive and special teams pick to end up with bottom of the barrel units? Needs to be much better quickly. I think first of all, what I will say is like the draft is hard, guys. If you want to be, I've joked about this in the past. If you want to be the best draft analyst in the world and have the best hit rate of anyone, put out a draft guide and just say everyone's going to fail. And you will have a higher hit rate than any other draft analyst in the world because the vast majority of players are going to fail. And I think overall, the body of work that Goody's put together with players like Jair and Rashawn and Jordan Love, this most recent draft class, I think he's shown that he has a pretty keen eye for talent overall. That's not to say that there haven't been misses, but I dare you to go through just about every GM's draft over the course of a 5-6 year period of time, and you're going to get some hits and you're going to get some misses. You're going to get some late round picks that turn out to be studs, a la Zach Tom, and you're going to end up with some early picks that end up being total busts. That's just the name of the game. I think he hits on the whole more than most GMs, but this is still a very important draft for Goody. He does have, again, he's going to have a lot of picks. He's going to have 5 in the top 100, and he needs to continue to set the foundation for his team. He knows it. He knows that if he goes out and has another draft like he did last year, this team could be, dynasty's a tough word, but they could go on a significant run for a long period of time. It's a huge opportunity, and it's a huge opportunity for him to hit it out of the park. But I like Goody. I think he's done a tremendous job overall, but there's things he can do better, and this will be a really big draft class for him. J. Henry Glover, Antoine Whitfield Jr. in free agency. My guess is Tampa Bay finds a way to keep him under contract, but there will be opportunities, like I said, to upgrade the roster. Somebody like a Geno Stone, who's a free agent in Baltimore, who's had an awesome season, could be an option. He's had a phenomenal year. He's a great underdog story. There's ways that they could probably find some players that work, especially at safety. But hey, Jay Henry, if you could sign me up right now for Antoine Winfield Jr. in free agency, I will gladly take you up on that. All right, Michael, definitely a missed opportunity, but also just happy to have the extra week of Packer football. The bar will definitely be higher next year. Go Pack Go. I wasn't sure where you were going to go with the bar. I thought you were going to say the bar is going to be more packed tonight. I'm like, it might be. But yes, the bar is definitely higher. Expectations have been reset. Green Bay's a year ahead. If you told me they had this year in the 2024 season, I would have been like, yeah, that could easily happen. Didn't think that they had this in them in a 2023 run, and they definitely proved myself and a lot of people wrong. and it was awesome to watch them grow in real time. And now, but yeah, expectations have changed, and we'll see how that changes this team, because it is a hell of a lot easier to play when you don't have those expectations and that burden on you. We saw Dallas last week. Dallas had expectations and they had burden on them, and they did not respond to it well. So we'll see how Green Bay responds, knowing that they're going to get picked to be a playoff team going in, and anything else will be a disappointment. They're going to get picked to have to be better than the 9-8 season that they put together this year. And they're going to have to live with those expectations. So they've reset the bar, but now they have to continue to clear it and continue to get better every single year. All right. Steely Phil. I know there's a lot of positivity in Packerland right now, but I can't feel it tonight. Win the damn game. These opportunities aren't ever gimmies. We are on the same page, Steely Phil. For those of you who want to wallow tonight, I get it. I understand it. Take your time. As I mentioned all during the chat tonight, when the smoke clears and the emotions are over with, I think we're all going to look back and think positively of this season. But if you want to live in the raw emotions of the gut punch that this was, trust me, I'm there with you. I get it. They had the opportunity. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. There's no guarantee they get better. There's no guarantee they're back in the playoffs next year. I think they will be. I think they'll be better. I think they'll be back in the playoffs. I think they'll have a better record next year than they had this year. But these things are not, they're not a guarantee. You can't take them for granted. They had an opportunity today and they blew it, and that sucks. All right. Preston. Based off of Barry's resume in Green Bay, would you say that Matt LaFleur bringing him back is similar to Jerry Jones keeping Mike with better options out there? Sure. I can see that. I think that's a fair comparison. I think Mike has more success to lean on. He has a better resume than Joe Barry does. Joe Barry's never had a top half of the league defense in his entire career in multiple different seasons with multiple different teams. He's never put a top 15, 16 defense. I don't think he's ever put a top 20 defense together. Mike's won a freaking Super Bowl. So I think Mike, if you were comparing resumes between Mike as a head coach and Joe as a defensive coordinator, it's Mike in a landslide. I don't mind actually Dallas keeping Mike. I think he's a really good coach. I think they're close. I think you try to get over the hump with him, and they're clearly going with one more year on his deal and see if he can do it. If not, they'll go in a different direction next year, but I can understand the comparison there, Preston. Rashawn Gary was disappointing most of the season. I am willing to give Rashawn mostly a pass for this year. It's his first season back from an ACL injury. Those are not easy. It felt like he hit a wall midway through the season. Didn't play all of last year because of the ACL, came back for week 1. My guess is all of last offseason was him rehabbing and training and doing everything he could to get back. And that probably took a lot out of him. And then he got back and he had the adrenaline, was playing like 30 snaps a game. It looked like midway through the year, he just hit a wall. I think with a little bit of rest for Rashawn and an off season and not having to go through rehab, I think he will come back better and stronger than ever next year. I think what you got out of Rashawn as a whole this season, being back from his first year of ACL, you take, but I think you look for a better year next year. And I do think you're, with the contract that you gave him, the expectations that are there, you're wanting more out of him. I thought he had a couple of really nice plays tonight. Excited to go back and watch the all 22 of him, but I don't know that I would say most of the season, but this past half has not been up to par. I do think part of that's just kind of hitting a wall after the ACL injury, though. Joseph, thanks for signing up. You're the best. John, Love didn't seem rattled, but I think he made a few key bad throws down the stretch that may have been worse than the missed kick. Also, I think the D played winning football. Thoughts? I think I agree with all that, maybe, but the first part, I did think there were times where, I don't know, maybe rattled, but just like maybe a little bit nervous, maybe a little bit amped up in the moment. Even early in the game, like the very first pass of the game, he's got Aaron on that swing pass and he just flies it over him. He was just a little bit off in his delivery in this one. And listen, it could have just been the weather. So maybe it was nothing to do with being rattled. And we saw this from Purdy on a couple occasions as well. Maybe it was just a slick ball. That could have easily just been it as well. But definitely some throws he would have to have back. Listen, there's plenty of blame to put on Jordan at the end of this game. Plenty of blame to put on a lot of different people. It just felt like in the moment, the Anders kick was, one, so damn predictable. And you just saw it coming a mile away. And two, like that was the moment that just felt like it sapped the energy out of everything. If you're looking at like if you're going on like the graph of like when things changed, you would just put a huge circle around that Anders Carlson missed kick. That felt like the huge game changer in this one. So yeah, I think I don't disagree with anything that you're saying though, but I did think that the deep for the most part did play winning football, but this has been a little bit of an issue for the defense. We talked about it during the Saints game, even though they won. Green Bay goes and gets the lead. Saints march right down the field and score a touchdown. The Falcons game, at the end, defense had the opportunity to get stops. They couldn't get stops in that game. There's like 4 more, and I'm not even going to remember them, but where the defense had the opportunity to get off the field at the end of the game, and they just couldn't. And that's been a bit of an issue for this defense. All right, Vex, Andy, don't make my pain worse and start talking draft. We don't have to talk draft tonight, Vex. We'll get there. CJ Smalls, thoughts on Christian Watson, limited targets. I know he was battling through injury, but only 2 targets. I think one of the things we're going to have to learn very quickly about this team is you're going to get to the end of the game and you're going to say, Jaden Reed, only 4 targets. Bo Melton, only 1 target. Christian Watson, only 1 target. Dontavian Wicks, only 2 targets. Dontavian Wicks, no catches in this game. Like, we're just going to have to get used to this a little bit where you can't throw to everyone. And especially in a day where your offense isn't necessarily stringing together a ton of long drives with big plays, you're going to have games where a lot of guys end up with 2-3 catches. And that's just going to have to be the nature of it because they're spreading the ball around. So could they have targeted him more? Could have made a bigger impact? Maybe. But I think this is sort of the realization we have to come to when Green Bay has so many targets that every single game we're going to look at and be like, what, they couldn't get Dontavian Wicks involved in this one? And then next week, it would be someone else. And the week after that, it'll be someone else. Like, there's going to get somebody that gets left out every single week, basically, from here on out. They just have too many weapons. It's a good problem to have, but it's definitely a problem. And I do think, like, they were still trying to get Watson reintegrated in this offense coming off the injury. Just didn't feel like it ever really got back to where it was pre-injury. How much more of a leash for Rich Bisaccia? 1 year. 1 year leash. He's got another year to prove himself, in my opinion. If the special teams is in the bottom third of the league again next year, you should really look probably in a different direction. But he absolutely deserves 1 more season, in my opinion, to see if he can get this turned around. But to me, one more year is the leash at this point. All right. Afam, you're heated after this one. I totally get it. Sorry, I missed like the entire chat in this one outside of the super chats. I think I'm losing my voice a little bit here, guys, so I'm probably going to head out soon. I desperately need something to drink. Derek After Dark, I'm so sick of losing to the Niners in the playoffs. It felt like we were finally going to beat them. Me too, Derek. Me freaking too. Hate San Francisco, superstar roster and coaching staff. I'd be embarrassed to have a game like that against a 7 seed with Joe Barry. Fair enough. Vex, thank you very much. Appreciate you too, my man. All right, whatever. We don't need to go through that. You don't have to fight with 49ers fans in the chat. Just know, like, I promise you, when Green Bay beats and I don't know, maybe it's a Lions fan. I don't know. I've been in here, but like, I promise you when the Packers beat the Bears and the Cowboys, that Packer fans were lighting up their chats too. It's just how this stuff goes. Packer fans, listen, Packer fans talked a lot of smack going into this week and, Packers didn't get the win. So you got to kind of live with that sometimes. Lots of spam. You didn't miss much. Need mods, laughing out loud. Most of Minnesota might need to make you a mod next year in these going forward. You're probably right. We're probably reaching the point where we probably do need a moderator moving forward. Fastest rebuild in history, certainly up there, Patrick. Love it. All right. Since everyone's just fighting in the chat anyway, and since I'm losing my voice, and since I have a whole nother podcast to record and need to rewatch the game, I am going to head out. I appreciate you guys a ton. Like I said, 20,000 subscribers today, 200 members, 70K on Twitter. Really cool day. Appreciate all the support all season long. Don't stop now. Now is another time where like this next Packers team, like 2024 starts tomorrow. Like they're going to start making moves. They're going to start putting futures contracts together. We're going to free agency is going to be here in like 40 days, the start of free agency, not much long after that. The draft will be here before you know it. So don't be a stranger. You guys have been amazing, freaking amazing all season long. Appreciate you guys a ton. I will see you guys tomorrow with a all new episode on the full breakdown of the game after I rewatch it. lucky me. Of course, all 22 breakdowns are coming. We'll chat with all of our normal guests through the course of this week, and then we will transition into off-season content. Love you guys. I will talk to you soon. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.